How do you stay motivated?
Oh, I still have a vision that, until everybody has had a piece of Fascia's chocolates, then my job's not done. A lot of people never know what good chocolate is. Once you know what good chocolate is, you don't want anything else. And when a mother comes in with her daughter and says, I had Fascia's at my wedding as a favor, now my daughter's going to have it as a favor. That's nothing more gratifying than that. That's the legacy that we want to continue.
Welcome to the CBIA BizCast powered by Google. I'm Amanda Marlowe, and today we have a sweet episode for you. Specifically, as we get close to Thanksgiving, we have President of Fascia's Chocolates, Carmen Romeo. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're happy to have you on and very happy about the box of chocolates sitting in front of us. So it's going to be hard for me to stop looking at it as we talk. And obviously the holidays are right around the corner, which I'm sure is a very busy time for your business. But first, I think you have a very interesting story in it of yourself.
I guess getting into chocolate was certainly not in my plan. I am an engineer by training and graduated from WPI and went to work for GE for 13 years and did a lot of variety of, I'm an electrical engineer and did a lot of a variety of sales and national accounts and product management and started to get into the more manufacturing side of the business. And when I left GE, it was another large company, and I was a product manager there and a national accounts manager, and one thing led to another. And but I did move back to Connecticut for a short period of time, and that's when I met my wife, and that was in 1995. And I was working for GE at the time, and I never knew anything about Fascia's chocolates. And I meet this woman whose family has this chocolate business. Now, it was in the hometown I grew up in, but I was not a gourmet chocolate guy at that time. So I didn't really know much about the business. But when you marry into the family, you learn quickly about the business. I moved her away, and several years later, about 8 years later, we got back to Connecticut. And at the time, I was a general manager of a manufacturing company. And found my in-laws working in their late 60s, early 70s, and still was not in chocolate. But at that point, having been in the family long enough, I knew a lot about the chocolate business, and it was a great little business, but still hadn't thought about being in it until they were suddenly forced to move in their. Again, they were 69 and 73 respectively. They were forced to move without a retirement plan. And that was really when it was a little bit of crisis mode. Now, the company I was running at the time was owned by a Midwestern company. This is a manufacturing company. We were about 50 people and about $15 million worth of revenue. So it was not tiny, but it was a small business.
Yeah, certainly.
And I did not want to move. We strategized that this company should actually be back in the Midwest where the parent company was, and I didn't want to move with it. So I convinced my wife that we should be in the chocolate business. Now,
and was your wife involved in the business at that time?
She grew up with it. She had a love-hate relationship with it, and we call it bittersweet. That's her relationship with the business was bittersweet, because when you grow up with it in your home, and we'll get to that, but the family business was all consuming. She did leave it for a short period of time, and then I took her away. But when this all happened, she was taking care of our kids and working for the business part, whenever she could.
And before we kind of go down that line, so you were kind of always drawn to, making product.
Absolutely.
Tell me what you love about manufacturing.
Oh, well, I mean, I've always been a tinkerer. I've always been a builder. And although I was an electrical engineer, I was with a bunch of my engineering friends this past weekend. We had a little reunion, and I told them, I probably a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer may have fit my actual love more, but I was electrical. But I definitely got into general management of making things, and that's the thing I like the most. A lot of electrical stuff was always, something you can't see and touch, but I've always my career could have been strictly sales, strictly account-based, but I draw myself to factories and became a general manager of 2 different manufacturing companies.
And so you've left Connecticut, so you know what it's like on the outside.
Absolutely.
And now, obviously you've been running this business for quite some time. So let's take me back to then when you kind of came back, you and your wife made the decision that we're going in.
I was born and raised in Waterbury and spent significant time in Massachusetts and Virginia and North Carolina. And again, a small brief period back here in Connecticut. But when we decided, it was 20 years ago, to move back to Connecticut, it was mostly for family reasons.
Yeah.
But when it came time and I saw the business needing because it could have just died. Really, a lot of it was a result of, yes, I had a love and passion for the business already. It wasn't what I did to make money, but I did have a passion for it. But really, it was the draw to work for myself. I had worked for big companies, family companies, big and small family companies. I've probably seen every scenario. I've seen fathers and sons fighting each other in court. I've seen firings. I've seen all kinds of things. And I just did not want to work for anybody anymore. I finally felt it was time to work for myself. So it may have been that as much as a draw and a love to keep the business going.
There is some pressure, though, working for yourself, carrying your family's vision, right?
Well, the biggest pressure was economic because the business was so small that, I went with no salary for several months and had to essentially rebuild the business just to live on it. So the pressure was there for a while, and we built slowly and surely. The biggest thing was a couple of years after I joined, we were able to buy our building that we're in today. And that's what's given us the ability to continue to grow, is purchasing a building.
Yeah. And so let's get into that a little bit, kind of those early days, like you mentioned, not even taking a salary.
It was not easy, but again, I had already developed a passion. I knew the product was great. That's kind of where the beginning was. And a lot of people never know what good chocolate is. Once you know what good chocolate is, you don't want anything else. And the product has never been the issue. I'm probably still the biggest stalwart as to not changing how we do things. We are not an automated facility by any means. We have equipment that handles chocolate, but it's all done by hand. We use equipment to help us make more, but it really, the product is as pure as it's ever been, and as long as I'm around, will stay that way. So that wasn't the problem. It was just really getting to be known and getting ourselves to be known, because we were really the best kept secret in Waterbury, Connecticut.
And so you went in and changed a lot of the marketing and some other processes as well, right? Kind of between wholesale.
Yeah, in the very beginning, again, my in-laws had gone from a 9,000 square foot facility where they had been known. It was a destination, but people knew where they were, to a 3,500 square foot industrial park.
Yeah. So actually, let's pause. Let's go back to there, to how Fascia's really started. Let's get to the root of their story.
They started in their home in Waterbury, town plot section of Waterbury, a very ethnic Italian section of town. And my father-in-law was working for the Bristol company. So he has a manufacturing background as well. He was at a desk and was an electronic technician. And he just wanted to make a little extra money with some daughters coming on and continuing. So he would go to New York and buy nuts, literally bags of large, big bags of nuts, and rebag them and sell them to his coworkers. And somebody finally said, you should put chocolate with those. He was self-taught, self-read, bought his first chocolate equipment and started making nut clusters. And that's kind of where it all began.
And this was on the side.
This was on the side, and it was on the side for 21 years. Now, 14 years after he started, when they had a full chocolate shop in their basement, and people would come to the house and knock on the door, and my wife and her 2 sisters, one of their jobs was lead people into the basement to buy chocolate. It finally got crazy enough in the neighborhood everybody knew in the neighbors, they may not have liked it around Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day. They finally moved out and had a little retail shop. But for 7 years, he was still working full time and running the chocolate shop at nights and weekends. So when they finally went all in 1985, it was, it was at risk, but they had enough of a following that they were able to stay and grow. And they really did continue growing slowly for, the next bunch of years. And we find ourselves in 2008 when the fateful time where their landlord essentially said, we sold the building and you have 2 months to get out.
And that was a tough time for business for everyone.
Well, this was prior to the crash.
Oh, okay.
So this was in May of 2008, which meant property values were sky high. Rents were not available. So when we did lose our lease, and it was a really difficult chore to find a place to be. If it had been a year later, we might have been able to have our pick of places. But we ended up, again, in an industrial park, which was not conducive to selling chocolate. So we went into wholesale for the very first time. Basically, a friend of ours who ran a florist said, yeah, we'll sell your chocolate for you. Now, when I entered, my only way to really grow was through wholesale. So we added...
You knew that was going to be...
I knew that was a way to survive. It was not going to... Retail was not going to happen in the location that we were in. It was a 3,500 square foot industrial park. The luck, though, and a lot of my lessons learned have to do with being ready to capitalize on luck, was our neighbors moved away and we took over the next door space. So it didn't change the location, but at least it gave us, 3,500 square feet. We went to 7,000 square feet.
More production.
Gave us a little elbow room, ability to store stuff, but we started doing some events, and that was really the thing that made Fascia's very different. I started teaching chocolate. We did pairing classes and some gourmet truffle making classes in that area. So that's what allowed us to grow just enough for me to convince a bank to loan me money to buy a building, which we then focused on not only making and selling chocolate, but what we call experiencing your chocolate, which is the events that we do. And that's a big part of what I do.
And much easier to run a business when you own the building.
Absolutely. I'm the best landlord the business can want. So yes, it is much easier. You can invest. You can invest without worry that, I knew this was a long-term thing. Did an SBA loan, again, had to have a bank say yes. But we've since refinanced that. We've added solar. We've really made investments in our physical plant, and that allowed us to grow the way we have. And again, the event side, as of now, 12 years into the building, we have had over 60,000 people listen to me talk about chocolate. And it comes in the forms of school groups and senior groups and special needs groups of all types. We have birthday parties and painting, chocolate painting, and I do a lot of we call it Sweeten Your Spirits. It's a chocolate and beverage pairing. So people bring in their own beverages and we do a little pairing session.
So that kind of really goes beyond wholesale and retail, and it's really like tourism.
Yeah, we're a very diverse business, having, our business to consumer, traditional retail sales, even though we're a manufacturer first, we have a retail storefront. The wholesale, again, was a way to survive. But once we got into the building, we backed off the wholesale a bit and really focused on doing the events and bringing people to our shop. So here we are in tourism, here we are in retail, and the wholesale never stopped, but it wasn't my main focus. And we were able to grow by bringing people, as making Waterbury a destination. And then several years ago, about 5 years ago, I returned my attention to wholesale in a different way, though. Rather than open up our own store somewhere else, we are predominantly today in grocery stores, independent grocers, and higher end gift shops, farm shops, and we have 135 locations now selling our chocolate. But the focus there was to merchandise it properly, where it's a rack. People, I get texts now all the time. Every time we're in a new store, they're saying, darn, your chocolate's now in my local store. I can't help but buy it. So that's always a good thing. So that's been a big part of our growth, is refocusing on wholesale. But I only did that once we got to the point where the retail side it's hard to grow that. It's, even though people with the experience, with the events side of the business, that's the draw. if you look at my business for 7 weeks of the year, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the week before Valentine's Day and the week before Easter, you'd say, wow, what a great business. Well, guess what? It's the only 7 weeks of the year that there's lines. The rest of the time, we're happy. We're love people coming, but it's very rare that you have a line.
So you really had to, expand,
You
have all these
diversify
different
and
lines of
expand.
business.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that come with that, though?
Well, again, being a seasonal business is really, really difficult. You're putting a lot of eggs in a small basket. I'm most proud that the number that I look at the most is percentage of business at 6 months. Half the year used to be probably in my in-laws' days, and when I took the business over, we were probably 80% of our business being done in just 6 months of the year. Well, we're dipped below 70 now. I think it was 68%. So we've shifted a lot of business while growing to the summer months and the off months. So we just don't lose as much money those months. It's still a very seasonal and cyclical business, which puts inventory turns and being able to build inventory, finished inventory for the holiday season is not for the faint of heart. Most people would not want to look at my balance sheet. Probably 7 or 8 months of the year is really tough.
Like you just said, all that growth has been here in Connecticut. What makes Connecticut special in that regard?
We all know Connecticut is not the easiest place to do business, and it's home, and that's about the best I could put it. And I'm very involved, but it's almost impossible. I can't keep my healthcare plan because I'm too small, getting dropped as we speak. We have 401k. We try to do what we can, but honestly, the minimum wage where it is and continuing to go up is a detriment. I can't pay the people I want to pay more money. It's doing the opposite. So it's not an easy place to do business, not for a business like ours.
And that's why you stay so involved as well. Keep pushing this is what business is like right now.
Right. Yeah. I am not a business that's going to up and move and start all over somewhere else. It's not a widget. We depend on our customers, and we love it here. I don't want to be but it's not easy, and we'll do the best we can.
How do you stay motivated?
Oh, I still have a vision that, until everybody has had a piece of Fascia's chocolates, then my job's not done.
And so it's really that product. It comes back to that.
It comes back to the product. I'd never, ever sell the product. People will know me. I very rarely ever use, this is wonderful chocolate is why you should buy it. It speaks for itself. It tastes for itself. And I'm very proud of that. Like I said, I'm not innovation. If I innovate anything, it's the way to make it, but not the end result. The end result is perfect. I've added some product lines over we do gelato from scratch, and I added gelato as a line of product. We have a bakery license, so we have a wonderful line of baked goods that still have yet to come to the fore, meaning there's a whole business that I could go into with baking that we just haven't pushed hard. But it comes down to the product itself. If I can get it into people's mouths, it usually does the job.
That's a great piece of marketing. And so, in terms of, you just mentioned innovation, but a lot of the processes still are in the chocolate making is very old fashioned, right?
Yeah. I mean, not to boil it down to, chocolate is our raw material. We bring it in. We do not make chocolate at Fascia's. That might be a surprise to a lot of people, but there are 5 companies who make about 60% of the world's chocolate. Even Hershey's buys about 3/4 of their chocolate. Just about everybody who's a household name locally here in Connecticut, and even the bigger names, Godiva, Russell Stover's, Whitman's, Cadbury, they all buy chocolate, every single one of them. So that's our raw material. So we work with the chocolate, but everything that happens is really our techniques. It's not automation or anything like that. It's machinery we have helps us move chocolate, keep it warm, temper it. That's the science behind it. But really the product is no different than what you could make in your kitchen.
As you continue to grow, how do you keep to that commitment of, high quality
Again,
the end product.
There's some lines you can cross with even equipment, and if you want to get automated, if you want to, and we just won't cross those. So handwork is not a bad thing if you don't have a lot of hands that are idle, and that's probably my biggest I want to say issue. It's challenge is to now we have a workforce of 40 people. It's not a full-time workforce. We have 7 full-time employees. We have we run between 16 and 23 full-time equivalent. But
what does that mean?
Full-time, that means if you just take the total hours and divide by 40, that's about the size of a business we are. But when we have 30 people in the building that are part-time, some 5 hours a week, some 15 hours a week, it's harder to keep everybody efficiently working. And that's the biggest challenge, is more focused on our personnel, making sure that people do all the work they're supposed to do in a quality way and not have a lot of idle time, because labor is a huge portion of the total cost of our product.
And what kind of things are you doing to try and help strengthen in that area?
Well, now
it's a challenging time right now.
It is. Finding people to work in a chocolate business is not all that difficult. I mean, it's people. We have several retired folk that are our best employees. I say our best employees are the retired ones. The postal workers, police officers, school teachers, and nurses that we have that retired and wanted to just keep busy. And those are some of our very best employees. And they know how to work. It's the youngsters that, we get challenged when we have the teenagers and the college students who are on their first job and they have to learn to work. And it's a different generation today than it was many years ago.
How do you keep them motivated?
We think we have
just keep feeding them the sugar.
Exactly. Well, one of the benefits is you pretty much get to eat all the chocolate you want. So that tends to self-regulate after a while. But people, they like that. We just have fun, and it is a family environment. So I think we're a wonderful place to work. It's not an easy place to work. A lot of it is, again, handwork on your feet. Very few of our people sit at a desk.
And, in terms of just thinking about, like we said, the chocolate, the excitement that it brings to people, but you guys do a lot of work as well within the community, kind of a philanthropic arm. Can you tell me about that?
So our philanthropy is through the roof. It's the Fascia family first, and me. I'm born and bred in Waterbury, and I'm happy to be back in my town. And there's hundreds of we get hundreds of requests for chocolate for a raffle or silent auction, and that's almost a given. We rarely say no. We offer fundraising opportunities for organizations. I've shown up at many more than my wife would like me to do, but evening events where I'm handing out chocolate. And then it's also giving back through board participation in organization. I serve, currently I'm the president of the Smaller Manufacturers Association. I've served the SMA through the CMC for many years. I sit on the Western Connecticut Tourism District board. I'm the treasurer. That's a tourism state level board. I serve the Waterbury Regional Chamber as a director, and the United Way on the local campaign committee.
And so, as we you think about the business, just your story and the business story is so interesting. What are some of the things that you lead by? How have you really helped bring this business?
Again, I think all I've done for the business is make it a real business. And I love the word mom and pop, and I do not mean anything derogatory when I say it, but we were just a mom and pop, and you could do that by feel. And you just knew everybody who worked in the business, the family, and even the non-family members they all knew what to do. Everybody had a single purpose. And when you get bigger and you have more employees, keeping them all motivated to the same level as the business owners is almost impossible, but you try. Business processes, quality control, writing standard operating procedures, bringing some manufacturing principles to it so that we can be more efficient and continue to do the handmade stuff, but in more volume. That's really what and it's a perfect marriage of, business and engineering. There's a lot of science in chocolate too, and I love talking about it. So for me, it's been a perfect marriage of all my background and also keeping things going, like I said, in the business. We've shifted a lot. Most of what, the product is what it is as far as chocolate, but the packaging of it and the being able to customize and personalize, that's the innovation that we're continuing to bring to our customers. Hey, caramel's caramel and it's great, but how do you make it sell more? Well, you package it differently.
Yeah, and certainly, can you kind of explain what we have in front of us?
One of our, we do a lot of business to business and that customization and personalization. So the box here is an example of what we call a message box. And here we have a Happy Holidays molded logo bar. And also this is I have all 4 versions of the last 4 incarnations of the Connecticut brand.
Okay.
3 of them I can't use anymore because I have one that said still revolutionary and one without it, but here's the newest Make It Here or the recent Connecticut brand as a logo. And to turn somebody's black and white logo drawing into a mold is easy to do.
Okay.
I do have a mold provider, so we need a black and white drawing. And once we have that, we can put it we use this as a business card size, but we can put it into boxes of chocolate. This happens to be kind of the medium size. We have one larger than this and a couple others that are more with different types of products in it. But we use that business card logo in many, many different ways. We add inserts to the boxes, meaning you want to have a brochure. You can put a brochure in your box of chocolate. So it could really be branded. We gift wrap. That's a lot of what's keeping me busy now that we're here in the middle of November. October, November are my personal busiest months of the whole year, serving the corporate customers.
Oh, we're lucky to have you here then for this. And what's next? What can people expect next for Fascia?
So again, I think wholesale is, I mentioned it before, but that's been our biggest focus. I'm proud that my son is the 3rd generation in the business. I'm going to give him his due here. He is a few years out of school. He graduated from UConn and with a business degree, but he put himself through school working for Fascia's, and I sent him out and said, you are now going to be my delivery guy for wholesale. I could not expand wholesale without the ability to support wholesale. So that's how he started. And then when he came to me, we assumed and never pressured that he had to, never pressured him to stay in the business. In fact, the opposite. And when he was in his senior year of college, thinking about what he wanted to do, he came and said, I want to stay in the business. I said, great. You now.
I can see you take a big deep breath now, right?
But I said, now you have to you have to go out and grow the business. So he is our wholesale manager, and he has taken to doing the sales end of things, which means we've been greatly expanding a lot due to his abilities, and he's an account manager. But grocery stores and no large chains, but Big Y happens to be our single largest now, and we're in 20 Big Ys, I think, around the state. That's been one of our biggest growth areas. And so people are finding us. We are in 135 locations in the state of Connecticut and a couple beyond the borders. And we're not really focused on many states away. We'll stay very regional, and there's still a lot of places on the map that we still need to have a pin where you can buy Fascia's chocolate. So we're not anywhere near done, but that's really been the growth.
Looking now at the business, and kind of talking to the family, what does it mean to you to continue to carry on this legacy, right? I mean, technically in 2008, it could have been no more, but it's continued to carry on and really grow.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest thing that drives me, is to keep the business going. As a testament to my in-laws. I mean, they're great people. They're very proud. I do know that. We've always had a great relationship, but we talk all the time, and they still say, I cannot believe this is the business we started. They're very proud, as much that their grandson, both grandsons actually, my son is full-time in the business, and the youngest of their grandchildren is still working in the business. He's in college and going through college, so he's working there too. But that's probably the thing that makes them proudest, is that the business has lived on and they can actually see it living beyond them. And that has driven me from day one, is to not ever tarnish their legacy. We get called down in Waterbury area, we get called an institution, and I don't take that lightly. So that's what really, it does drive me, as much as, sure, I want to be able to live on the business. I want to be able to, say it was successful, but the legacy of my in-laws, it's the family name. And I don't ever forget that it's the family name. I answer to Carmen Fascia a lot too. They just call me that, and hey, yeah, it's not my last name, but it's fine. I'm proud to have that attached to me. So it's a big driver, the legacy, and I'm very happy that my relationship with my in-laws is phenomenal, and even better that my in-laws and my mom and dad, all still alive in their 80s, they're all actually very good friends and get together when even my wife and I don't know about it. So it's all good to have a harmony in the family.
And so when you're making some of these, business decisions to, put more into wholesale or pivot slightly, do they kind of come up in your head, or what's that like? I
consult my father-in-law consistently. And just because I like to get his opinion on things. It doesn't always mean I've done everything he wants, but that was the interesting dynamic. It's not always rosy, but I'm always cognizant and aware that it's family. So things that I might have been able to change faster, I didn't. Why? Because I wanted harmony in the family. And the family was always a huge part of anything that I did, and how to navigate it.
And as you said, you also worked for family businesses where you saw what happens.
Yes. So I was never going to have that happen. And I've avoided that. I hope it's been done right. Like I said, I've in large part, we've done exactly what I wanted to do. But I would actually candidly say that some of the timing might not have been what it could have been had it not been with family.
So, as you kind of take a step back, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned through your experiences?
So I think luck, being able to take advantage of luck situations that present themselves. Our neighbors moving away when they did would have changed the course of the business. The people who sold our building, they were wonderful people. They were leaving the industry, but they had no timetable, so they were able to work with us. That was lucky, being able to take advantage of things as they came up. So just always looking ahead. I've always had multiple plans in mind. And when we come to those crossroads, we either, venture one of the paths. But if you don't think about the different paths you can take, I know my business can grow in many different ways, and I'm probably ready for them all. But
you have to wait for the right moment.
I wait for the right moment. I'm not trying to make it happen. I mean, contract manufacturing, as an example, I could make chocolate for other people under their name. I'm not sure it's the best thing for us, but I'm not out seeking it. But I'm ready to do it if the right place came along and wanted the right product made, and I could just go in the back room and make it and not worry about the sales and marketing of it. It might be the right thing to do, and I'm ready to do it. I'm just not. So I'm waiting for the right opportunity. If it doesn't come, fine, I'll keep going on the path that we're on. So I think that might be, if I boiled it down, is always have options. Always think about the options that you might have and the different paths. Don't stay on one, because you'll miss the opportunity if you don't think about it ahead of time.
And that way when the opportunity comes, you've already thought some of it through.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of living and breathing a business. I might be out on the golf course, but I'm still thinking about the business. I might be relaxing on a beach. That doesn't happen very often, but if I do, I'm probably still thinking about my business. And that's part of it.
And, as one final thought, what do you hope when someone goes and buys a box of chocolate or receives one? What do you hope?
Well, nothing thrills me more. Well, I get it all the time. I get people coming up to me. Maybe I'm at a charitable event handing out chocolate, and they tell me their stories of visiting the basement, and they predate me as far as the chocolate goes. So, yeah, we just had it's our 60th anniversary year. We're just about to post. We did a campaign, and people wrote down their fondest memories of Fascia's, and we have a huge number of them that are going to be on our website, and it's just really gratifying to hear other people talk about their experiences with us. We've been with them for lots of their holidays and memorable occasions, and we've put engagement rings in boxes of chocolate for people. We've been part of, birthday and baptism and weddings. And yeah, that's actually really, really important. When somebody comes back for a wedding favor and they say that, I had Fascia's at my baptism, I had Fascia's at this, and they're going to have their wedding. Or a mother comes in with her daughter and says, I had Fascia's at my wedding as a favor. Now my daughter's going to have it as a favor. That's nothing more gratifying than that. That's the legacy that we want to continue.
Great. Well, thank you so much, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be part of the BizCast. And, we'll hopefully send a lot of people your way in the coming weeks.
Thanks for having me. There is still time to personalize. It really is maybe a 10-day process if we really pushed. So when this comes out, if people say they want their logo in chocolate, we can do it. I will say one other thing. We do specialize in the servicing. So we have many clients who like to send chocolate on occasion or systematically, people's birthdays or anniversaries. Or I have a couple clients when they have a great business meeting and they just feel like it deserves chocolate, or maybe they had a tough business meeting and they feel they could smooth it over. I might get a text, please send my box to with this note. And it just happens. And that's the service we provide is maybe as important as the product we provide.
Awesome. I love that. Well, chocolate certainly soothes all wounds.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this week's BizCast. You can listen, like, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us a review and let us know if you have ideas for a future podcast. And for more episodes, head on over to CBIA.com.